Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our third episode of Join the Dots. And when I say join the dots, I mean from positions of truth. This is so important, so important. If we don't work from the truth, we won't end up at the right position to help both you and your family, your friends, in the areas that I really want to specialise in, which is wealth and health. And you need both, of course. And in this world at the moment, it seems that we're being deflected from the truth in both issues, health and wealth. But let's concentrate on wealth today. And I've given you a title which is a little bit sensational, but then I'm sad that this world now only responds to sensationalism. If I gave you a very bland title, it wouldn't really appeal. So I need to give you a title that incites people to look and think about what I'm saying, or to sensationalise the truth. It is the truth. Global wars equal silver. Why? Because each missile produced carries silver in its body, in its head. It carries an amount of silver. Each cruise missile has 13 kilos of silver. Each missile. Imagine how many missiles have been launched by the Houthis, at the Houthis, by Iran, by Israel, by Ukraine, by Russia, and that's just the start. Now, I'm not even mentioning, although I will now, Germany. Germany has just approved a record post-war budget with a huge 1 trillion deficit. Why? To build up its munitions. A lot of that money is devoted to building up the weapons. And indeed, the whole EU now has been called out by Donald Trump, who in his first term told them very bluntly, you're not spending enough on defence. The NATO agreement is 2% of your GDP, you're not doing it. And of course, NATO was very blasé, very lazy, very complacent, really, or the European partners were very complacent in that they didn't meet their commitments, and they really relied on America to provide the defence. So now, post-Ukraine, we have an awful lot of changes happening. We have NATO realising that it's almost NATO ex-US. It's Europe, and Europe needs its own defence industry. Even Japan is starting to put more money towards its defence requirements. So at the end of the day, we're going to see an awful lot more missiles and electronic devices related to defence that require silver. So let's join the dots on silver. Let's think, okay, so what sort of impact will this have? Right, we start with the world's production of silver last year at 881 million ounces. How much was consumed? A tad over 1 billion ounces. Oops. Yes, we were 140 million ounces short in production over demand. And that's the fourth consecutive year that equation has come to that conclusion. So we're 560 million ounces short of what we've used over the last 4 years. I talked to you yesterday about liquidity and how liquidity is drying up in the market and how it might lead to house price falls, etc., through the banking system. This has the same problem. The liquidity in the silver market, i.e. what's held at COMEX, what's held at London, what's held in Shanghai, what's held in Dubai, the 4 main centres, is dwindling rapidly. The float, as it's called, has disappeared. So now there's very little silver actually available, and we're using more than 140 million ounces than we're producing, and that's before we have the Houthi, the Ukraine, the Israel-Iran situation. We are well short of silver. Now, just to show you again, you have to go off, sometimes you shoot off at a tangent to find another dot that you need to bring into the equation. Let's think of Samsung. Samsung. Yes, they make solar panels, but what they also make, or what they're also developing, is an electric vehicle battery with solid state silver usage. Yes, each cell only has a tiny amount of silver, but in total, I'll look at my notes here, in total we have 35 ounces of silver in each battery. And you think, 35 ounces? What's 35 ounces? Well, then you think, how many cars did Tesla produce last year? 1.7 million. So let's say we have 2 million Samsung batteries. That's 70 million ounces of silver. That's almost another 10%, around 8%. And we're already 140 million ounces short. So you have to join these dots. And the dots come from different angles. They come from military. They come from EVs. They come from solar panels. They come from all sorts of electrical devices. Are we building less solar panels next year? No. India hasn't even really taken its major steps towards solar. Think of that market, India. How many solar panels are they going to require? How much silver is that going to need? How many batteries will Samsung produce? I'm told that the actual cost, well, if you work it out, in 35 ounces, and today the price of silver is around 35, so we're around $1,000 extra for a car battery. And I thought, well, that won't work. People won't pay that. Hold on, I thought, let's join another dot. Let's look at a Tesla battery. How much does it cost? $5,000, it says. Wow. So Samsung's battery for its EV, which will do more miles on less charging time, will actually cost a fifth of a new Tesla battery. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? You haven't heard that anywhere else. So the demand for silver is growing, I wouldn't say exponentially because that sounds so abstract, but it's growing at a huge pace. And the chances are, given the world, given where we are, global wars, and they're not really easing, are they? If anything, they're getting worse. I see notes out overnight about China and Taiwan. I've talked about Taiwan for 5 years to my clients, about how I see Taiwan as the Falklands moment for China. Possibly, not definitely, possibly. Because it's a nationalistic, it's a pride, it's a massive nationalistic move to deflect from all problems. And when now we have the massive global economic problems, or Chinese economic problems, which will affect the globe. Now we have those, now we know those, and I told you about these yesterday. What is the likelihood that China might do something very nationalistic? And there's nothing more nationalistic in the Chinese culture than to take back Taiwan. So you see, again, we can spin off in all sorts of directions. But what I did do also overnight was I thought, how many videos have I watched in the last 5 years as I've tried to build this information base and these truth tellers so that I can join the dots for you, because it's so important. You have to have the truth. I will keep saying that until I'm blue in the face. I really will. You have to work from the truth. How many hours of videos? I reckon I've watched 9,000 YouTube videos in the last 5 years, on which I've been reporting all of these incidents and matters and thoughts to my clients. I've been trying to make people understand, work from the truth, join the dots, and you'll find some incredible statistics which seem incredible, but when you know the truth and you join the dots, they're not incredible at all. So here we are, global wars equals silver. So here we're going to look at the wealth side of your future. And we're going to try and say, okay, where should we be positioning some of our money? And now you cannot take this as financial advice. All the regular disclaimers, I should shout, I should scream, I will put them on the site so that you can see them. I'm just giving you information to allow you to make a more informed decision. And in the world of economics, we know that if demand and supply are not in balance, then either the price falls or rises. In this case, we know already that the silver market is short 140 million ounces every single year for the last 4 years. And we now know that there are going to be an awful lot more missiles built. Even if they're not fired, they're going to be built in Europe, in America, in the Middle East, in China, in Russia. An awful lot more silver is going to be required to complete that arsenal of new weapons. Then we look at the car industry and we think, well, electric vehicles are doing fine now. And then we find out, oh, hold on, Samsung are going to produce a battery that does 800 kilometers on a 5-minute charge, which knocks the spots off Tesla. At the moment, things will change, technology moves forward. But at the moment, if Samsung brings that battery to market and it uses 35 ounces per battery, and that translates into 2 million sales, that's another 70 million ounces of silver. That's another 8-9%. So you can see from this that there is a link, and this is what this service is all about. I watched 9,000 videos. I have whittled the people that I listen to down and down and down based on experience, based on their success, based on their accuracy, based on their truth. No more so in health, and we'll come to that tomorrow. I really want to start informing you about health tomorrow, but for now, I've whittled these numbers down. I have probably 5 or 6 key people who I listen to on the issue of precious metals, and that's gold, silver. It is palladium and platinum, but I think it's a little bit exotic. If we're going to have a service that gives you the very best based on the truth, then I'm going to try and keep it to the very sensible and logical, rather than the exotic, which people can say, oh, well, this will do this, this will do this, uranium will do this. Yes. But let's try and be sensible, okay, in a world that's really lost its sense in many respects. Hence, we need more missiles, okay? And we need an awful lot more solar for countries like India that haven't really joined that crusade yet. And then we have electric cars. And we want to go further, and we want to charge for less time. 800 kilometers on 5 minutes, that's impressive to me, because that starts to bring it into the very best petrol engine. Because normally you're 5 minutes in a petrol station. So a 5-minute charge, 800 kilometers, 35 ounces of silver, 2 million cars, just 2 million cars, another 70 million ounces of silver. I will give you an awful lot of statistics over our service, but you don't need to go out there and really dig if you start to trust me, because I've done that. I've spent 5 years, I've watched 9,000 videos, I've found the right people, I've found those who tell the truth. What I tell you will be facts as we know them today. They will be facts because I've joined the dots from the truth. Okay? So to sum up today, what I'm talking to you about is I want you to start considering silver as a logical wealth asset. Now, we can discuss all different forms that silver can be held in. We'll come to that. But let's start with the basics, and let's start with understanding why silver could be an incredibly logical asset for you to hold over the coming years. And when you think about how solar is going to develop, how EV batteries are going to develop, how weapons are going to develop, and how the market is already 140 million ounces, almost 20%, let's say 15% short already. And all that float that was above the ground before has now gone, because those 4 years have soaked it up, okay? So there we are. That's today's episode of Join the Dots. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it started to make you think about this, because it's such an important issue for your wealth. And tomorrow, as I promised, we'll talk about health. And in the description below, I will give you some of the names of people who you can go to YouTube and follow. And join the dots also. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow.